us to get here, so we were hoping that if I talked a little bit longer, he would get more relaxed and ready for his presentation. Arnold is a member of the steering committee, but Arnold is also the policy coordinator for the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey. He's been a tremendous asset to us all along in this process. I'm going to invite Arnold up to talk a little bit about these policy issues and some late breaking news we have on some of these. And then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what it is that we are about and why you should join us and what it means to be part of this network. Arnold.
Thank you, everybody. And you know, it really is so impressive to be up here looking out at these sea of people. I mean, this is just so wonderful. This is so impressive. This is a message that we're sending to every member of Congress that comes through here. We were just down in Washington last week. We told them that 300 people were going to be in this room. You can see how impressive every member of Congress that we spoke to was by this. This is a very critical time in our nation's history to be here. This is a time when, after years of seeing our programs either try to survive on level resources or having diminished resources, now for the first time we have a Congress that is poised to be talking about adding resources to the programs that are so desperately needed to address the issue of homelessness in New Jersey and throughout the nation. As Richard mentioned, so what I'm going to talk about is what I call the Sexy Six here. 3 bills that we're following that are critical and before Congress today, and the 3 pieces of appropriation that are critical to what we're doing. The first bill, as Richard said, the McKinney-Vento, the reauthorization of McKinney-Vento, has already passed and signed by the President. We have victory number 1, and we should congratulate ourselves. Second piece of legislation that's moving along now is a revamping of Section 811 or disability housing. This is a bill that puts more resources into housing. Vouchers. This bill just came out of the House of Representatives, has been introduced in the Senate by our own Senator Robert Menendez. Robert Menendez is chair of the Subcommittee on Housing and Transportation. He introduced it with Republicans, and this has bipartisan support and is poised to move. So it's great to see, and so this is, let me just get my date straight here. So it passed on July 23rd, on July 22nd by a vote of 376 to 51. And again, this is a bill that had the support of the entire New Jersey delegation -1. So you'll be hearing that a lot today. But again, you know, to have 12 out of our 13 United New Jersey Congress people voting with us, Republican and Democrat, is a real victory. The third bill I want to talk about is what's called several. It's this reform of the Section 8 program. As we saw during, you know, in the 70s, the 80s, you know, for people that are old enough to remember, we had a significant number of vouchers every year. Every year, part of what passed Congress was 70, 80, 100, 150,000 new vouchers. And that's what actually allowed us to keep up with the growing need for housing that was out there. So when we look at what the situation is now, in terms of homelessness and that desperate need, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came because Congress didn't continue to put those resources, as well as other things. But that was one major piece of it. So what the severed bill, and for those of you who remember, we actually had a meeting on this in New Jersey, in the State House. We had Will Fisher from the Senate Budget budget and policy priorities come up. We had 5 of our New Jersey congressional offices represented speaking about how important this is. A bunch of you signed on to a letter that went to Senator Menendez to urge him to take this bill up quickly once it gets to the Senate. Right now, it's in Congress. It just passed out of the Financial Services Committee. And along with the reform of Section 8, the bill allows for 150,000 new vouchers. So again, this is a two-part process. One is Severa talks about what can be, and then later on they got to come up with the money to make it be. So Congress gets a little complicated here, but we just got to stay with it every step of the way. Now, there's a couple of problems with the bill that came out, just to be clear with everybody here. One is that, and this one's unbelievable to me, that in the Financial Services Committee, these are some Republicans that didn't even vote for the bill to come out of committee, but were able to get an amendment in there to allow concealed weapons in public and private subsidized housing. You cannot, as a housing authority, forbid people to carry weapons. This is nuts. And so this is the challenge that we have, is to make sure that that gets out of that bill. Because when we spoke, I was down here last Thursday, we spoke to Senator Menendez's office, Senator Lautenberg's office, and they were clear. They don't want to see this bill move if it continues to have that amendment. So we got to make sure that that happens. And this is the kinds of nutsy stuff that goes on. I mean, you would think, where in the world, of all the places to allow, to allow people to carry firearms, that Congress would see the sanity of allowing housing authorities or private owners to ban that. So that's the 3 pieces of legislation. The 3 pieces of appropriation that we're dealing with is, one, the HUD budget. There's a 25% increase in the HUD budget that just passed out of Congress. There's more money in there for homelessness, more money in there for project-based Section 8, more money in there for tenant-based Section 8. The bill passed mainly on partisan lines, but we actually had 2 Republicans from New Jersey. Out of 16 Republicans that voted for this appropriation, 2 of the Republicans were from New Jersey. Congressman Chris Smith and Congressman Lobianco. So in their offices, one here today. We need to applaud them for their bravery. Oh, I see we have Congressman Lobianco. So I'm going to be brief. The other 2 appropriation bills that we're looking at is there's in the president's budget, he called for $1 billion to fund what's called the National Housing Trust. This is a piece of legislation, new money to address the housing needs of the lowest income. It was originally funded through the financial vehicles of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. With this financial crisis that we've had, they're no longer viable to fund anything. And so the president has said he's going to commit $1 billion, and now that needs to be appropriated. So that's another piece of appropriation that is at its infancy, but it's going to be a critical piece to be able to, for you all, to be able to build. And then the critical piece that goes along with that, of course, is the increase in project-based vouchers. So now with the Housing Trust Fund, you have the money for production, and with the vouchers, you have the money for operation. And finally, last but not least, is we need support systems in there, and the SAMHSA bill, which gives $120 million that's coming out of labor and HHS, is another vital appropriation that we're supporting and is critical to the needs of what we are trying to do, the mission that we're trying to serve of ending homelessness. Thank you very much.